This is Gerald Johan van Waas and the Educational Channel, related with the book Sound in Form, also in two separate volumes, the development of the word and the application of the word. The book is about the meaning of letters, the meaningful combinations of letters and sounds used in words, which are now proven to be exactly correct according to what the words are describing. You can discover the method behind it, you can discover the natural order behind it, and we can discover that we are actually using letters that are very well describing the words that we are describing with them. In these videos I just give you some examples how to recognize this in the letters and words that we use, in the letter combinations that we use, in the words we use. And I already had some of the environments and some of the objects that we found in the environments described through some videos. Here I continue from there. We already had the dinner table with some of the objects that we could recognize and that we could describe with letter combinations and could understand with these letter combinations. We had already the plate. Well, let's go from there. So what shall we put in the plate? We shall put some soup in it. So the next word will be soup, and I will demonstrate not only soup in the Dutch and English version, I will also associate it with words that are somewhat connected. So I will also compare it with sop and sip, for instance, and maybe I go from there to a few other words. But first let us examine a little bit, or explain a little bit, the letter of S. The S is, I already described as the effect of something, or something that evolved from there. It's a distilled form. Like you have the juice, for instance, with the S. It is a result that comes out of a whole process. It's somewhere at the end of the cycle, and that's why this form is also useful. Let's compare it like this and explain it a little bit how we have to understand it before we make some combinations with it. So it is actually going into a direction where we will distill still some results. The first part is our starting point, will be our own center point of vision. So we will explain it as the one, our starting point. And our focus is completely onto something which is outside ourselves, which is the other, or the other thing, or just the result of things, something like that. So the word so is, of course, also going towards the result. In this case, it is a kind of estimation of what that we make compared to what we think, but it is somewhere else. And that's the direction where we will head to. But we will not use so, but we will start with su. And the su is a little bit wider. It's also the u. The o is an environmental association. The u is a little bit wider than that. So we will widen it a little bit and then add the p to it. The p, or the popping out of it. So if we do that, we have the soup conditions described already somewhat here. Let's contain them a little bit and see what we have. We put them in the container, press them in the directions outside. It can be in different directions, but as an A in variations. And then we can easily compare it to where we will find the soup, the boiling soup. Even the how we close the pot, it is still fitting with the soup letter combination in that case. But in English it is slightly different. It is not written as O plus E, it is written with O plus U. Will be there a difference? Yes, of course. The U has a tendency to go down, or to to focus down, or to deal with gravity, the gravity of things. So it's actually also pressing down, and it's a bit confusing. The up is always popping up. The word up in English is actually the same as the Dutch word up, but in Dutch it's completely used as popping up. The up is dealing with its gravity because of the U. It has no other choice. So if we look at the container in that way, again, of the soup in English, it more fits with the soup in the plate or in the boil. It more fits with the pot and what is in the container pressed in. It is still the boiling up and the boiled, potentially boiled container of things that are popped up in it, boiled in it, but it's pressed inwardly. You can see in these letters as well. So soep is when we choose the word sop, we will also have the popping out. Sop is a Dutch word, which is also like a soapiness. That's maybe I think the good translation. Sop is the next word, so sop will completely focus on the results of the popping up of environmental popping ups, as you can see in the word sop. As we expressed the soapy bubbles, let's say that's the sop. I'm not sure if there is a good English translation, but that's the sop. But let's go from sop to soap to compare it to English. I added this later, so that's why you have a different color at the background. So the so we have here the basics, but the O, it's not with an O, it's with O. The O is a changing condition from O, environment, to a physical condition, as you can see described underneath. So what we will have is that there are, in the word SOA exists as well, it are environmental conditions, or O, which go towards physical conditions, or they bring forward physical conditions. And at the end we will have to have the P, the popping up or the pressed out physical objects. In this case it will be the soap. We know the object itself, we know that, but it's not clear yet how the process is forming the physical process. So we have to analyze it a little bit more into detail. It's not soap, no, it's soap with the double O, but even SOA, as we know it as the word, it is with a double O, so it is with an environmental conditions which gradually comes to the physical part. So it is also like a direct consequence that you can find in the in a certain environment. Here it is written as SOA, so it is localizing itself in certain conditions, but we have to end with P, and that's and also pronounced as whoop, soap. So it is a bit difficult to get that form in there, but we will come to that. So we will have the soap, soap, which will go to soap, and the pressing out of the environment. It is in a certain way, if we analyze it a little bit, we know that it will take a slightly difference with the W, which are the weak forces that form something and keep itself somewhere together. It comes out of the environment, and it tends to become something physical, and it is also something that comes out of the environment. That's something we know, that it will form itself out of the environment. So in soap, different than soap, it will tend to become physical, to become even more physical, to pop out the physical results. So once we realize what it is actually somewhat the opposite of forming soap. The soapiness, the soap itself, the soaping process is actually the other way around. It's like it's gradually forming the material thing that brings forward the soapiness, but it's the interactions forms a material. Soap or soapiness is like the environment which pops out and produces more pops out in that environment, while the soap itself is the other way around. It will pop itself. It's not pronounced with the A, it's pronounced only with the O, so it only refers to the environment. The environment is producing the soapiness. The soap actually, it's also used in television series because it also produces bubbles, bubbling up of environments that have their own bubble, let's say, of what evolves further into its own bubble, let's say. So that's maybe why soap is a very good word to express also the formation of what can produce these bubbles of environmental conditions. Let's go to sip. There's a different vowel there, the I, and this pressed out also, in trying to press out with ease, and a P at the end, popping out at the end. If we have these kind of fractal of popping out, and take these forms that are formed out together, we have this kind of face which reminds us of the Dutch word sip, which means glum or blue face. It's a gloominess, I think maybe is even better used. But sip has of course different meanings as well. And it also is not very far from seeping or seeping through. So the sip, also here are the P is pressing out, the S is trying to get an effect also outwards. The E can be both ways, it can go both ways. So it is pressing in, seeping through, and but still tendency to pop out, not pop in. So it is a kind, this sipping that you can produce is analyzable. It's not so easy, but you can understand it intuitively if you start to analyze the directions that are used in the letter combinations. Seeping through is of course with the E, so it will have to be a wider environment. So let's analyze this wider environment of A plus A. The C here is of course the wider, the broadening, something physical here in this case, which is broadening, of course, a broadening of effect, the C. And we have to go to the effect, the seeping, so we will go further. That's why the contradictions are still visible here, because in C, with its widening thing, it can be just one object, one global thing as well, but we will direct towards the seeping or popping out. So we have to have an effect, an after effect that we want to focus upon and make it visible. So the seep and the seeping is of course visible or visualized very easily by just using the contradictions. As you could see, I was a bit too quickly by showing it, but okay. This was again, that was seeping through very quickly. This was again Gerald Johan van Waas. This was a demonstration of ideas that were expressed in theory in the development of the word or in the full book, The Sound of the Form, Sound in Form. And there were more demonstrations how to recognize the combination, how to think with these combinations of letters, and learn gradually how to recognize this and think with these letters so that you can understand these combinations in the end. This was it for this week again. This was Gerald van Was. There's a website too, there's a YouTube channel, this one. You can subscribe to it and get more instructions now and then. Thanks again, bye bye.